Despite inflation rates continuing to cool down, high prices still weigh heavily on many people's minds and wallets.
A recent consumer price index report shows the pace of inflation rose 0.3% last month, impacting food, housing, and energy costs.
If you're living on a fixed income right now, you already feel it. The grocery bill that used to be $90 is suddenly $140.
The cost of living continues to rise, and consumers are really feeling the crunch at the grocery store.
A lot of people are feeling a lot more pressure shopping for their families.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently broke down the average amount Americans spent on groceries last year. For a family of 4 with 2 kids between ages 6 and 8 and 9 and 11, on the low end, the cost was close to $1,000 a month in November, with liberal spending as much as $1,600 per month.
The cart looks the same, the total does not. And here's the part nobody is saying out loud. The people who handle this best over the next year aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who quietly bought the right things while those things were still cheap. Not gold, not fancy survival kits. 11 ordinary foods you could put in your cart this week, most of them for a few dollars each. Foods that store for years, feed you well, and cost almost nothing to set aside now. Because here's what most people miss. The smartest move isn't reacting when prices spike. It's stocking the basics before the next climb, while they still look stocked, while they're still affordable, while almost nobody is paying attention. And there's a reason this matters more for older folks than for anyone else. When you're younger, a bad grocery month is an annoyance.
And food prices continue to go up. The latest Consumer Price Index report shows food prices jumped 0.7% last month.
When you're on a fixed income, a bad grocery month means choosing between the pharmacy and the pantry.
Overall inflation is holding steady, but grocery prices are taking a bite out of budgets, rising 4.7%, the fastest pace in nearly 2 years.
Berries, citrus, orange, lemons, limes, cabbage, all of them are going up.
Nobody should ever be in that position over a few cans of food they could have set aside for pocket change.
Yield issues in coffee-producing regions. We can't snap our fingers and just say, well, let's just double production. And so those price increases have been persistent.
By the end of this, you'll know all 11, why each one matters specifically for older bodies and older budgets, where the price is already moving so you can see it for yourself, and exactly how to build this up without ever feeling the dent in your wallet. Let's go. Number 11, rolled oats. Start here because the value is almost impossible to beat. A large container of plain rolled oats still costs just a few dollars, and that container holds dozens of servings. Compare that to a box of cold cereal, which gives you maybe 10 bowls for the same money or more. The math isn't close, but the reason oats are in the top of this list for seniors goes past price. Oats are one of the few cheap foods that actively work in your favor as you age. The soluble fiber in oats has been shown in study after study to help lower cholesterol and steady blood sugar. They're gentle on the stomach, easy to chew, and soft enough for anyone dealing with dental issues or a sensitive gut. And they're flexible, hot in the morning with a little honey, mixed into soups to thicken them, used in baking when flour runs short, stored properly in a sealed container away from heat. Plain rolled oats stay good for up to 2 years, and longer if you keep them cool. The price has crept up quietly over the last 2 years, and grain costs are not trending back down. A few containers in the pantry now is one of the easiest wins there is. Number 10, canned tuna and salmon. This is protein you can store for years, open with a pull tab, and eat without cooking a single thing. For an older person living alone, that combination matters more than it sounds. There are days when standing at the stove is the last thing anyone wants to do, and on those days a can of tuna is a real meal instead of skipped nutrition. The protein supports muscle, which we all start losing faster after 60, and the salmon in particular carries omega-3 fats that research links to heart health, joint comfort, and sharper thinking. Prices on canned fish have already moved. A can that ran $1 a few years ago is closer to $2 now, and global fishing quotas keep tightening, which means this is not a trend that reverses. Most cans hold their quality for 3 to 5 years. Stack a couple dozen and you've bought yourself protein insurance for the cost of a single restaurant lunch. Number 9, dried lentils. If you only learn one new staple from this entire list, make it lentils. A bag costs almost nothing, stores for years, and delivers protein and fiber in the same cheap package. Unlike dried beans, lentils don't need soaking overnight. They cook soft in 20 to 30 minutes, which makes them gentle to chew and easy to digest, exactly what you want as you get older. They turn into soup, stew, or a side dish with almost no effort, and they stretch a small amount of meat or broth into a filling meal. There's also a digestion benefit that older bodies appreciate. The steady fiber in lentils helps keep things regular, which is a quiet daily struggle for a lot of people past a certain age, and it does it without a single pill. Kept dry and sealed, lentils last for years without losing much at all. As meat prices keep climbing, a cheap, shelf-stable protein you can actually rely on is worth far more than its price tag suggests. Number 8, peanut butter. Calorie for calorie, this is one of the most efficient foods you can keep in the house. And for seniors, there's a specific reason it belongs here. Appetite often shrinks with age, and a smaller appetite means it gets harder to take in enough calories and protein to stay strong. Peanut butter solves that quietly. A couple of spoonfuls deliver protein, healthy fat, and real energy in a form that needs no cooking and no chewing of anything tough. Spread it on bread, stir it into oatmeal, eat it straight off the spoon if you have to. An unopened jar keeps its quality for about a year, often longer, and the price has already climbed noticeably. A few jars in the cupboard is cheap insurance against the days when cooking feels like too much. Number 7, powdered milk. Here's one most people overlook completely, and for an older household it might be the most important item on this list. As we age, bone density drops and the risk of fractures climbs. Calcium and vitamin D matter enormously, and fresh milk spoils in days. Powdered milk fixes that. It stores for months to years sealed in a cool place, costs a fraction of what you'd pay buying fresh week after week, and reconstitutes with water into something you can drink, cook with, or pour over those oats. It's calcium, protein, and vitamin D in a box that doesn't need a refrigerator. Dairy prices have been volatile, and shelf-stable formats are getting pricier and harder to find in bulk. This is a quiet one to grab now before it climbs again. If this is already getting you thinking differently about your own pantry, a quick like genuinely helps this channel keep making videos like this for people on a budget. Totally up to you. Just wanted to mention it before we keep going because the next few items are the ones that tie everything together. Number 6, white rice, the cheapest source of clean calories you can buy, and the backbone of any real food reserve. White rice, not brown, because white rice stores far longer. Brown rice has natural oils that turn rancid within months. White rice kept dry and sealed can last 10 years or more and stay perfectly good. It's easy to digest, easy to chew, gentle on an older stomach, and it stretches everything else you own. A little tuna over rice is a meal. Lentils over rice is a meal. The price has stayed relatively low so far, which is exactly why now is the moment, before grain costs push it the way they've already pushed everything else. A few large bags is the foundation everything else on this list sits on top of. Number 5, canned vegetables. Calories keep you alive, but vitamins and minerals keep you functioning, and that's what canned vegetables quietly provide. Green beans, carrots, peas, corn, tomatoes, all of it. Shelf-stable for years, all of it requiring zero preparation beyond opening the can. For someone who can't easily get to a store or can't carry heavy fresh produce home, canned vegetables are how you keep real nutrition in the diet without depending on a weekly trip. Look for the low-sodium versions where you can, since blood pressure is a real concern for a lot of us. Most cans hold quality for 3 to 5 years. They've crept up in price along with everything else, and they're the difference between a pantry that just fills you and one that actually keeps you healthy. Number 4, pasta. Cheap, filling, and it stores nearly forever when kept dry. Dried pasta sealed away from moisture stays good for years past the date on the box. It cooks fast, it's soft and easy to eat, and it pairs with the canned tomatoes, the bouillon, the canned fish, almost everything else here. For pure calories per dollar that's stored long term, pasta is hard to beat, and it brings variety, which matters more than people expect when you're eating from a reserve day after day. Grain-based products have all moved up in price together, and pasta is no exception. A dozen bags costs very little now and buys a lot of meals later. Number 3, bouillon. This one is small, cheap, and absolutely essential, and almost nobody treats it that way. A jar of bouillon or a box of cubes costs just a few dollars and turns plain food into something you actually want to eat. Here's the part that matters most for seniors specifically. Appetite fades with age, and bland food makes that worse. Rice cooked in broth instead of water, beans simmered with a cube, vegetables turned into soup. That flavor is what keeps an older person eating enough to stay strong. There's also the hydration angle, because a warm cup of broth is an easy way to get fluids and a little sodium when you need it, and dehydration sneaks up on older people far faster than most realize. And there's one more thing nobody talks about. When you're eating from a reserve, the enemy isn't hunger, it's monotony. The same plain food, day after day, quietly wears a person down, and for someone living alone, that sameness can take the joy out of eating entirely. A little flavor changes that. It's the difference between food you have to eat and food you look forward to, and that difference keeps an appetite alive. Bouillon stores for a year or two easily, takes up almost no space, and the bulk containers are getting harder to find. When you see it, grab more than one. Number 2, honey. This is the one that never truly expires. Stored properly, honey lasts essentially forever because its chemistry simply doesn't allow spoilage. Archaeologists have found edible honey in tombs thousands of years old. For an older household, honey does double duty. It's a natural energy source and a direct substitute for sugar in coffee, tea, oatmeal, and baking, so when sugar gets expensive, honey steps right in, and it's genuinely useful beyond food. It's long been used to soothe a sore throat and calm a cough, and there's real research behind that. If it crystallizes, it isn't spoiled. A little warm water brings it right back. The large jars are the ones that make sense for storage, and they're exactly the ones getting pricier and harder to find as honey production stays under pressure. There is no downside to buying more than you think you need. And number 1, plain salt. The cheapest item on this entire list, and in some ways the most important. Salt never expires, full stop. A box costs about $1 and will outlast you on the shelf. Your body genuinely needs it, especially in hot weather or during any illness that leaves you dehydrated. It's how food has been preserved for thousands of years, which becomes real knowledge again the moment the power goes out and the freezer is a question mark. It makes every other food on this list taste like something instead of nothing, and it stores in any condition, anywhere, indefinitely. There is no cheaper insurance in the entire grocery store. A few extra boxes of plain salt and a container of iodized salt for the trace iodine your thyroid needs, and you've covered one of the most basic needs there is for the price of pocket change. So here's what ties all 11 of these together. Rolled oats, canned tuna and salmon, dried lentils, peanut butter, powdered milk, white rice, canned vegetables, pasta, bouillon, honey, and salt. Every one of them is cheap right now. Everyone stores for years, and everyone fills a real need. Calories, protein, calcium, fat, flavor, or the simple ability to eat well on a day when getting to the store isn't possible. This isn't about fear, and it isn't about clearing the shelves. It's about the plain reality that prices have been climbing and show no sign of stopping. And the people who get ahead of that are the ones who act while things still look fine. Here's how to do it without ever feeling it. On each of your next few shopping trips, add just 2 items from this list. 2. At a normal grocery budget, you'll barely notice. But do that consistently, and within a month or 2, you'll look in your pantry and realize you've built a real usable buffer. One that protects you from the spikes and the empty shelf weeks that are already becoming routine. And don't overthink it. You don't need a basement full of supplies or a special room. A shelf in a cool closet, the corner of the pantry, a few sturdy boxes under the bed. That's all it takes for everything on this list. Rotate it the simple way, use the oldest first, and replace it on your next trip, and nothing ever goes to waste. The window to do this cheaply is open right now. It won't stay open forever. The people who will be glad 6 months from now aren't the ones who panicked when the shelves emptied and the news started covering it. They're the ones who quietly took care of it while everything still looked fine. So tell me down in the comments, which one of these 11 are you going to pick up first? Saying it out loud is a good way to make sure you actually do it.